Understanding transculturality. In contemporary social science, the concept of transculturality has gained significant prominence as a means to understand the complex ways cultures interact, overlap, and transform within an increasingly interconnected global landscape. Introduced by the German philosopher Wolfgang Welsch in the 1990s, transculturality challenges traditional views of culture as fixed, bounded, and homogeneous entities. Instead, it proposes a dynamic view where cultures are fluid, hybrid, and continuously reshaped through the movements of people, ideas, and technologies across national and cultural borders. Unlike earlier frameworks such as multiculturalism or interculturality, which emphasize the coexistence or dialogue between distinct and separate cultures, transculturality foregrounds the notion that cultures transcend national boundaries and cannot be isolated units. This perspective has become particularly salient in the context of globalization, where migration, communication technologies, and economic interdependence blur once clear distinctions between cultural identities. This exploration will unfold the core elements of transculturality, including cultural hybridity, global interconnections, fluid identities, and the critique of cultural essentialism, while also considering its application to contemporary issues such as migration, diaspora communities, and the digital mediation of culture, along with important critiques of the concept. Rejecting cultural essentialism, the end of bounded cultures. At the heart of transculturality lies a decisive rejection of cultural essentialism, the notion that cultures are stable, bounded, and self-contained entities. Traditional perspectives often treated cultures as discrete wholes, tied to specific national or ethnic groups with clear boundaries and unique traditions. This essentialist view assumes cultures exist as pure and fixed systems. Transculturality counters this by asserting that no culture exists in isolation or in a pure form; rather, all cultures are inherently interconnected and continuously influenced by historical processes, such as colonialism, trade, and contemporary globalization. As Welsch poignantly remarks, cultures are not islands. They have never been, and even less so today. Cultures are inherently hybrid, dynamic, and permeable. Consider, for example, the influence of global popular culture on local traditions. A traditional Indian dance might incorporate elements of Western music or hip-hop, forming hybrid cultural expressions that challenge the notion of purely Indian or Western cultural identities. This rejection of essentialism is crucial for understanding how identity today is fluid and pluralistic, shaped by diverse cultural influences in everyday life through food, fashion, music, and language, encouraging us to see cultural identity as evolving rather than fixed to nationality or ethnicity. Cultural hybridity, ongoing processes of fusion and transformation. A central pillar of transculturality is the concept of cultural hybridity, which refers to the ongoing fusion of cultural elements resulting in new, hybrid forms of cultural expression. This hybridity challenges any notion of authentic or pure traditions, emphasizing instead that cultures develop through continuous exchange, adaptation, and transformation. Whether through colonial histories, migration, or globalization, cultures are never static but constantly reconstituted through dynamic interactions. Welsch emphasizes this by stating, "The hybridization of cultures is the normal state of human societies. It is through constant exchange and adaptation that cultures develop and thrive." A vivid illustration of this is the music genre reggaeton, which merges Caribbean rhythms like reggae and dancehall with Latin beats and US hip-hop influences, creating a transnational musical phenomenon that transcends national borders. Hybridity is also visible in everyday phenomena like food fusion, think sushi burritos, or fashion styles that combine traditional and Western elements. This understanding invites us to view culture as a creative and innovative process, where mixing different influences is a source of cultural vitality rather than loss. Globalization and the interconnectedness of cultures. Transculturality gains critical relevance in the context of globalization, where the intensified flows of people, goods, and ideas have erased traditional geographic constraints on culture. Cultures today are shaped by transnational networks facilitated by media, technology, and commerce, which enable cultural products and practices to circulate globally. This dynamic blurs the boundaries between local and global, as cultural influences continuously interact and reshape one another. Welsh insightfully notes that globalization does not homogenize cultures but rather creates a dynamic interplay of cultural influences that are continuously reshaped by local and global forces. The global appeal of Japanese anime and manga exemplifies this phenomenon. Although rooted in Japanese culture, these art forms are embraced and reinterpreted worldwide, giving rise to local fan communities and adaptations that further diversify their meaning. In this globalized reality, transculturality reminds us that our daily cultural experiences, whether in entertainment, cuisine, or social practices, are profoundly shaped by global interconnections, positioning us within a vast cultural network. Fluid and multiple identities in a transcultural world. Closely linked to cultural hybridity is the notion of identity as fluid, multiple, and context-dependent, rather than fixed or tied to a singular cultural tradition. Transculturality underscores how individuals increasingly draw from various cultural influences to construct complex identities that shift depending on situational contexts. This is especially salient within diaspora communities, where people often navigate and negotiate belonging across multiple cultural worlds. Moving beyond essentialist identity frameworks that insist on ethnic or national purity, transculturality recognizes that hybrid identities reflect the intersections of diverse cultural streams. As Welsh articulates, in the transcultural world, identities are no longer singular or bounded, they are fluid, shifting, and constituted through interactions across cultural borders. For example, a second-generation Indian American might simultaneously embrace Indian cultural practices, such as Diwali celebrations, while also participating in American traditions like Thanksgiving, with their identity varying fluidly across different social settings. This concept illuminates the lived experience of global citizenship and the negotiation of identity in multicultural environments, inviting us to appreciate and embrace multiplicity in our own self-understanding. Transcultural spaces, technology and media as catalysts for cultural exchange. In the digital era, transculturality manifests vividly in the new spaces created by technology and media platforms, which facilitate unprecedented cultural exchange and interaction. The Internet, social media, and global entertainment networks act as transcultural spaces where individuals from diverse backgrounds can connect, share, and co-create cultural content. These digital environments democratize cultural participation and accelerate the blending of cultural forms, allowing for hybrid expressions that travel rapidly across borders. Welsh highlights this development. In the digital age, transcultural spaces are constantly expanding, enabling the blending of cultural practices and ideas across geographical and national boundaries. The global rise of K-pop serves as a prime example. Originating in South Korea, it now boasts an international fan base that actively shapes the genre through social media interactions, creating a transcultural dialogue that flows multidirectionally. This phenomenon demonstrates how technology reshapes cultural consumption, community formation, and identity expression, underscoring the importance of understanding digital spaces as key sites of transcultural interaction in the 21st century. Criticisms of transculturality, addressing limits and challenges. Despite its compelling insights, transculturality has attracted several critiques. One concern is that its emphasis on fluidity and hybridity might overshadow the importance of rootedness in specific cultural or national traditions. For many, especially indigenous communities, ties to heritage and local practices are deeply meaningful, and transcultural approaches risk diluting or erasing these connections amid globalization. Moreover, critics caution that transculturality may obscure the unequal power relations embedded in cultural exchanges. Not all cultures participate equally. Dominant cultures often appropriate elements from marginalized groups without addressing underlying colonial or capitalist dynamics shaping global flows. These critiques urge us to apply transcultural perspectives with sensitivity to cultural survival and justice, reminding us that recognizing hybridity must not come at the expense of acknowledging power imbalances and preserving cultural diversity. Conclusion: embracing the complexity of culture in a globalized world. Transculturality offers a robust framework for comprehending the evolving nature of culture in our interconnected era. By rejecting cultural essentialism and embracing hybridity, it presents culture as dynamic, fluid, and shaped by global interactions. The concept highlights the pivotal role of technology and media in creating transcultural spaces and invites a rethinking of identity as multiple and situational rather than singular and fixed. At the same time, transculturality encourages critical reflection on power, appropriation, and the need to safeguard cultural diversity amid ongoing global exchanges. As we navigate the complexities of cultural interaction today, transculturality equips us with the tools to appreciate both the creative potential and the challenges of living in a world where cultures continuously intersect and transform. If you found this exploration of transculturality insightful, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to stay updated with our upcoming content. Your support helps us keep delivering thoughtful discussions on the social sciences and beyond.